Welcome to the Smichael Speaks YouTube channel. I'm Joanne Smichael. We're going to be focusing on the benefits of coaching, and I am delighted to have my colleague and my friend, Teresita Britton, with us today. Coaching has been an important career, kind of a development move for a long time now. It's been a tool that lots of leaders at all levels of organizations are using. It's become so popular that almost everybody is hanging out a shingle. We got life coaches, career coaches. Oh, we got coaches that I can't even imagine and understand. And the reason that Terry is here today is because she is a certified coach. She knows her craft. She works with leaders literally all over the world. So she's going to talk to us about the benefits of coaching and about how you select the right coach for you. I want to tell you a little bit about her background. She is certified by the International Coach Federation, has a coaching certificate from Georgetown University, and has also done postgrad work at Johns Hopkins? At Johns Hopkins. So this particular YouTube video is focused on the benefits of coaching. Terry, I want to ask you some questions at the beginning. Number one, what do you see as the benefits of coaching for leaders and organizations?
Oh, a lot. There's a lot of great benefits. I think one of the main benefits for coaches or leaders is that meeting your potential. I think that for you, yourself, and the people you lead, that is the greatest benefit that I see. And I find my job to be really meeting the potential of people. So that's probably the best benefit. Other than that, raising self-awareness, being innovative and creative in problem solving, those all become benefits of just taking on a coaching engagement.
When you start your coaching engagement with a brand new client, what do you do?
Okay. So one of the things, I work with a lot of organizations, as you mentioned. And so I find with the organizations to have a really robust coaching program, one of the things that they've done and they do very well is that they will have perhaps a person or a number of people who are strictly put to the task of matching coaches and potential clients or potential leaders who want that coaching. And these are people who know the leaders, who know the cadre of coaches they're working with because they work with them very closely. I work with those groups, HR very closely, and those kinds of organizations. So there definitely has to be a matching. Chemistry is extremely important for a leader, finding that coach that they can really have some in-depth conversations with right away. That's critical to the success of a coaching engagement.
You know, I want to explore a little bit more deeply. So I'm the leader, and I'm ready to possibly have you as my coach. What should I be asking for? Because I talked at the beginning about the fact that everybody's a coach now. Yeah. So what do I do to find out if you really have the credentials, the competencies, and the skills?
Yeah, that's such a great question, Joanne. I think one of the things, and what I'm seeing in organizations also, is they're really taking on that kind of the responsibility of that. In many of my engagements, organizations are requiring certification of their coaches. So they're doing the vetting for the leaders. If that's not happening, the leader can do it themselves. You know, they can look up, you know, and on the websites, you can probably Google me and know that I'm a PCC level coach.
Tell people what that means.
So ICF is the international body that really oversees the coaching profession. And as you said, you know, anyone can really put up a shingle. So the Coaching Federation has competencies that they require the coaches to abide by and be accredited for. So you mentioned I went through Georgetown's leadership coaching program. So I got into this, and when I did, I wanted to find a robust, rigorous program, had structure in it, but also had a great reputation and is ICF accredited. And so those are things that potential clients can really look for. The other is ask them questions. Ask questions around, tell me about your, the kind of clients that you coach. Tell me the kind of leaders and teams that you've worked with. Tell me some of your successes. Tell me some of your failures. It's extremely important to make sure that you're asking those questions. And it'll also give you an idea of the chemistry. Is this a person I can really share my aspirations with as a leader, share my challenges with as a leader? It's extremely important.
How do you deal with the people who think, I'm going to go to 3 sessions with Teresita Britton, and then I'm going to be fixed as a leader and I can conquer the world? Because it's an investment, and it's a time commitment.
Extremely a huge investment for not only the organization. So there has to be value add for the organization, but for the leader as well. It's time out. I mean, think about it. Leaders are extremely busy. The teams are extremely busy. So the investment in time and money is extremely important, but it's an investment in themselves as well. Am I ready to do that work of the heightening my self-awareness, really truly digging to see, am I getting the results that I want? And if not, why is that? And really interrogating those kinds of things. So in my experience, that typically takes more than 3 sessions. And so, but there are organizations out there who are saying, we can do it in 6. I just saw someone, say that we're going to do coaching, kind of on the fly. And that may work. It's not the kind of coaching I do. For me, contracting is extremely important with my clients, making sure that they understand what the coaching process is, what the benefits are, but also the work and the commitment that comes with it. So I like to work with leaders who can make that commitment. And so that's extremely important for me.
And for them, I would imagine.
I think so. I think the benefits will be that, it's hard work. I just had actually a leader I worked with, and extremely senior in his organization. And one of the first things he said to me was, I've done all kinds of development. I've done, and it might move the needle a little bit, but he didn't see what that was. And so he asked me, and I thought it was brave of him. He's like, tell me the difference. Tell me what that is. And I said to him, I said, that will depend on the work you want to, and the commitment from you.
From you. Yeah. I'm glad that you raised that whole issue of the time commitment and how deeply the leader wants to delve into themselves. I particularly see coaching as a component of organization development, that it is the piece that prepares leaders to move organizations into the future, to make, shifts in the trajectory of the organization. And that takes time. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of energy, and it takes a significant investment. How do you see coaching fitting in with a sound OD plan for an organization?
That's such a critical question. And I'll tell you a little bit about my background. I got into specifically executive coaching because when I was doing OD, organizational development, and change management consulting, what I was finding was when I worked with the leaders and I could develop a more of a coaching relationship, they were more successful in any of the initiatives they were trying to accomplish in their organizations. And so that made me think, like, there's something to this coaching. And it was all about pushing them, right, to take that ownership, pushing them to think about the change initiatives differently, pushing them to, have their teams commit in a different way, but doing it in a way that they owned it, and not I owned it. And so I think one of the things that that I really want to continue to explore is just really integrating coaching and OD work, because I think they go hand in hand and extremely important, especially going forward. I mean, these are times where, getting the most out of our leaders is extremely important. And so leaders also getting the most out of their teams. Yes. And so that's a lot of OD and coaching support.
Yes, yes. And that's what I think enables the enterprise to flourish, really doing those two things.
Absolutely.
As you think about the future of coaching, what do you see on the horizon?
I do see much more integrated work with OD. I think that, and also adult learning, what I think organizations will need to really interrogate training dollars that get spent. I see so much where budgets are just full of training dollars, but the return on investment isn't there. And I think that can be remedied by going at training or facilitated development in a much more integrated approach, combining OD, combining adult development and coaching.
I like the integration that you propose. If you were to advise a leader on coming up with an OD plan that included coaching, how would you do that?
An OD plan
that included coaching.
Absolutely. So I think that part of that would include what kind of leadership development are you currently undertaking with your organization and your leaders? How are you developing your leaders? And so developing, first of all, leadership development programs that are not just go away for 5 days, go get trained on what's a manager, what's a leader, those very dated types of concepts, but really immersing leaders in action learning. What are they dealing with in their organizations? What's current? What are the challenges? And doing it in that way where organizational development is actually incorporated in the facilitation of those learning opportunities. At the same time, partnering with coaches who will then follow up and be coaches for these people. You and I did a very wonderful program recently around that, a pilot program. And I thought with me coaching the leaders afterwards, and it was probably a huge part of the success of the program. So programs like that, where they really incorporate a coaching arm of it, I've seen some great success. And that's the let's face it, it's the path people are going.
It should be the path that people are going, because that piece where we educate leaders substantively on real issues and then get to send them back to test that education in real time and then come back with their peers and talk about, ooh, I didn't like this part, or I did like this part, giving them up-to-date reading to do on theories and concepts and practices, and then having the coach to partner with them to help them really understand this and to understand, how do I function in this organization? Do I want to stay in this organization? Is it a fit for me? Yeah. I would imagine that part of your coaching work helps people discover their core values. Is that on track?
I think so. I think one of the in meeting your potential, I think and I don't know that I've ever had a leader who can't look, who can't step into their potential without doing that discovery work, the personal work of who am I really as a leader, and I'll tell my leaders all the time, you're not going to be the leader that Joe is.
Right.
You're going to be the leader who is authentically you. And part of that finding that authentic self is value work.
Yeah. I think the values work is so important, not just in the coaching process, but in learning to lead and to lead more effectively.
Absolutely.
Yeah. When people are disconnected from or don't even understand their own core values, my experience is they're not as effective as leaders.
Yeah, because there is that followers will read in authenticity, and there's nothing worse than to be led by someone who you don't believe in, or you can't be inspired by, who doesn't, in some way make you also a better person because of how they model themselves, right? So those are, I think, great ways of being as a leader, but that's personal and it's individual.
Yeah. So you've talked a lot about kind of the people who are suitable for coaching and, their willingness and their readiness to develop. Who are the people who are not so suitable for coaching?
Oh, that's a great question. I actually use a lot of Carol Dweck's work. She's a psychologist who does a lot of work around mindset, right? And so when I'm potentially going to work with a client, I listen to their languaging because I want to know their readiness. And I also want to know if they will, in that time, if they are. So I pay attention to, and her work is around growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. So if I hear a client and they're saying, they're taking their challenges and frustrations and they're looking at them as if they're everybody else's fault. And the organization structure is making me do things, or they can't hear feedback because it actually bruises their ego and they've never been able to, right? So those are signs for me around readiness and that this person might be in a fixed mindset. And that's not to say someone who's in a fixed mindset can't be coached. I have to see, though, if they can, for me, if they can be. Typically, coaching engagements, because there's such a big investment, it would be a stretch to coach someone in that sort of mired fixed mindset.
Bruce Avolio writes about developmental readiness, and if they're not developmentally ready,
there's not much we can do until, unless pain or something else happens to them. So the nice thing is, the opportunity to be able to choose who you get to coach, and as well as the client should choose also. I'm not the right coach for every leader. Right.
That's I feel like I am not the right consultant for every organization. There are some where we are just not going to click. We're not going to connect.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think that those are important pieces, both for the organization as they're looking at us and for us as we're looking at them, to be able to tell the truth about whether or not it's going to fit, because the fit is so...
It's extremely important.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's just, it's painful for both the organization and I think the consultant and coach.
When you're starting an engagement with a new person, do you ask them to jot down what they want to get out of this experience?
Yes. So initial meetings are extremely important. Sometimes the meeting's just with the client. Sometimes it's with their manager, or might be an HR person that's involved. But even prior to that initial engagement, you really should understand where, I find I need to really know what's the story that led you. to this point where you want the coaching. And I think in paying attention to that story allows you to understand where they, a narrative about themselves. And so, yes, it's extremely important what their aspirations are, what they want to get out of it. Coaching itself is so hard to measure. And so if we as coaches don't do the work and the support to help clients articulate the goals of it, we've done a disservice to really coaching as a profession.
I know that there have been a couple of times where a client has said to me that this leader was on the verge of getting fired and said to me, find him a coach, find him a coach. And I've sent them to you, and it hasn't worked especially well.
No.
So why is that?
That's a great question. Readiness. And so when you have an organization who's using coaching as let me just check this off. This is the last thing that I need to do
before I fire you.
Before termination. It's not setting up the coaching in light of truly development. So coaching is development. My own practice is centered around transformative learning. And so that means there is a promise for transformation, right? Mm-hmm. And so that kind of work is tough. Remedial kinds of coaching is really tough. I take the calls because I want to find, that person who is in pain, and if they're willing and they really are in that growth mindset, is there an opportunity for them to turn this around?
Like, can this relationship be saved? Can this employment relationship be saved?
And if it's not, I've coached enough people where I once was asked by a potential client who said, tell me about some of your successes as a coach. And I actually shared not a promotion or not a leader that was promoted or had gone on to greater and bigger things. I actually shared with her about a coachee who stepped down and realized that she was better as an individual contributor.
I like that.
And that that mattered to her, and she did it with such grace, and the organization embraced it. And so that's extremely important. To potential doesn't mean the potential of where the organization thinks you are. It's your potential.
And where you want to be. And that takes us back to what you were saying about values. That person had discovered or unearthed their own values and was comfortable enough saying, I don't want to be on this track anymore. Yeah. I want to be on this track. Yeah. So coaching helps them discover that.
And awareness. Mm-hmm. Because in the organization, they saw their path as I can only go up to find value.
Right.
And what I do. And so it took a lot of uncovering for them to say, what result do I really want? Mm-hmm. And is it that path or is it this path? And I get to choose.
Right, the individual gets to choose. Yes. And I think that is very empowering for them to do the self-discovery and then say, I want to go here. I don't want to go there. So I think that is very empowering. Yep, I like that. I get to choose. Yep. I am so appreciative of you for coming to spend time on the Smikle Speaks YouTube channel.
Thank you so much for having me, Joanne. It's been such a pleasure.
It is always fun talking to you.
Thank you.